Hey everyone, my name's Raf, it's nice to meet you. In my first video I'm going to be talking through my November TBR. So, this month's reading list is full of a lot of fantasy, sci-fi, dystopians and YA, and a lot of them are sequels. So the first one that I'm going to start off with is Wayward Son by Rainbow Rowel. This is the second book to Carry On, which is one of my favourite YA fantasy books of all time. It follows Simon Snow, who is the chosen wizard, the most powerful mage in all of this fantasy world, and he is trying to defeat the insidious humdrum. He is trying to defeat the insidious humdrum, I believe. And then we have Baz, who is a closeted vampire trying to avenge his mother's death, as well as Penny, who is a super cool Indian, purple-haired, badass mum of the group. Basically, Carry On follows this gang of teens as they try to protect the wizarding world from an evil villain. This book follows what happens after the end of their journey. So basically, these characters have been destined to, defeat this evil wizard, and now that they've done that, they have to figure out what they're doing with their lives. They've got to try and find themselves, their identities, outside of that kind of defining purpose. So I'm really excited to get into this book. They get to go on a road trip around America, which is always a super cool setting. It's giving me major supernatural vibes, so Carry On, my Wayward Son, throwing it all back to my middle school days. I can't wait to get into this. The next book on my TBR is a classic, and that is Dubliners by Joyce. It's a collection of short stories. I've flicked through a few of these in the past few months. My favourite one is Evelyn, and I can't wait to finish them. It should be funky. The next two books in my TBR are by Neal Shusterman, and they are Thunderhead The Toll. They are the second and third book accompanying Scythe in the Scythe trilogy. I read Scythe last month and I loved it. It really lived up to all of the booktube community hype. It's basically set in a dystopian, utopian world where death and crime and sickness have been conquered, and because immortality has been achieved, a scythedom is formed where scythes have the job of gleaning or killing people in order to maintain the population. And it basically delves into really deep, kinda philosophical stuff. I don't know what to say.
What about?
About Scythe.
Just say, it's a dystopian version of what our future could look like.
Oh, that's a good line.
Yeah.
Right,
But that's what I thought immediately when I read it.
But I talked about the whole dystopian thing. I'll say it's a dystopian version of what our future could look like. Dun dun. I'm gonna zoom in and do black and white dramatic music. It's gonna be brilliant.
It's going to be.
It's gonna be an artistic masterpiece.
I know.
That 1 3-second thing.
Yeah, that's because of me.
It's because of you, Hannah. The Toll came out this week, and so I want to get to Thunderhead ASAP. That way I'm not falling too far behind on the Shusterman bandwagon. Can't wait to get into this, but first I need to read Arch Enemies and Supernova by Marissa Meyer. I keep getting her name confused with the author of Twilight, which is really bad. Basically, this is also a kind of dystopian fantasy trilogy. Renegades is the first book. I read that at the beginning of the year and I really enjoyed it. It's set in a world where the anarchists and the evil villains have been defeated by the superhero gang Renegades. And basically Renegades now form the government that control the entire world, and we explore the story of Nova, our protagonist, who is a part of the anarchist gang, as she infiltrates under the alias of Insomnia, the Renegades, and she attempts to bring its downfall, which is pretty funky, pretty cool. It actually prompts a lot of deep philosophical questions, which I assume is a theme of dystopian novels, and I guess that's what I'm in the mood for this November season. And that is the end of my TBR. As you can see, there's a lot of YA, dystopian, fantasy, sci-fi, heaps of sequels. Basically all of them are sequels, except for Dubliners, which is a classic. And basically I just want to kind of get back on track with all of the new releases, all of the hyped up books on BookTube before I move on to reading some of the new purchases that I've made, including Illuminae. I can't wait to read this. I think this might be my first read of December, including The Night Circus and The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I can't wait to read these. These look really good. I've heard a lot of good things about these. So, I shall see you in December with my December TBR, probably featuring these 3 books. Bye!